Hi everyone. I am now going to create a video to actually complete Lab 12, which covers dictionaries, how we're going to create a dictionary. So you will find it under our content for week 8. So if we scroll down to week 8, you will see our content. The other video I made covering dictionaries and the slide deck that goes with it. And now we're going to do Lab 12. So here is Lab 12. Here's the instructions. And we are going to continue to practice reading a file as well, since we learned that last week. And before that, we learned functions. We're going to continue learning those as well. So I am going to open up. So I'm going to quickly open up on the desktop the Lab 12, and you can download that and see that. And the idea of this lab is to do a word count. We are going to read a poem, so a text file, not a CSV, just a regular text file. We're going to read it and then count the occurrences of each word. So we have to figure out for every word, we're going to read it word by word, basically line by line, and then we're going to read that into a list of strings and then read it word by word and create a dictionary. So if the word is not in the dictionary, we're going to add the word and put the number as 1 and then continue reading it, and for every word, check if it's in the dictionary. If it's not in the dictionary, we, add it to the dictionary, putting the number of occurrences as 1. If it is in the dictionary, then we increase the number. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So here is the lab instructions, the sample output. There's no getting stuff from the user. We're just going to read the file. And so the first thing we need to do, of course, is bring up PyCharm and create our Python file. So I'm going to come into PyCharm. Here's my lab folders, right? You can see all my other labs. We're going to create our lab file. So I will call this, this is going to be lab 12. Okay, you can put your name after it. I'm just putting lab 12. We need to add the comments at the top. So you can copy and paste the blue text and add the comments. So put your name, I'm just gonna put my name for now, but you put your name. There we go. And now you're going to see that we need to copy that poem.txt into your labs folder. Okay, so let's do that. Let's go back to Brightspace. You're going to see that there's the PDF and the text. Now, if you click on the text, you may see that it just shows the text. So you're like, oh, great. There, it's a poem. You can see that it's broken up. There's basically there's a sentence on every line, and then, of course, made up of words. Well, that wasn't very helpful. So what we're going to do here is hover over on the web browser, hover over the TXT file, and right click. That's the 2-finger touch separated, or it could be one of your corners of if you have a touchpad. And you'll notice here there is a save link as, and so that's what we want to use. If you're on Chrome, that's what it says. If you're on a different web browser, it may say something a little bit different, but in essence, that's what it's meaning. So we're going to click on that, and then we get to decide where it goes. So I'm just going to automatically put it, I know it's going to go under Documents, CSCI 113, our Labs folder. I'm just going to put it straight into our Labs folder. Alternatively, you can just go into Downloads and then drag it into your folder. But we've done this before. So there we go. It's dragged there. Yay. Okay, so now I can close this up for now. And you will see it's right here in our poem.txt. It wasn't there before, now it is. I can even double click on it. You can see it's just a text file with that poem. So now we're going to continue on our file. It says copy that, great. I'm also going to start creating my main, right? We know that we're going to define functions, right? We're going to define some functions up here, and then we're also going to define our main function. right? So how do we do that? Def main parentheses colon. We are going to put some stuff in there, and then eventually we are going to call our main as well. So I'm going to have to fill in code, but for now, I'll just put that as a little comments. Okay, so now the first thing we want to do is, this is kind of the hardest one. It's creating a function that reads the files and creates the dictionary. So it's called count words. And you can see here it's a function. Here's the instructions. You can copy and paste the blue text, right? So I can copy this, go here, do my hashtag for my comment, then a space, and then paste it. And when I paste it, you'll see, now I can kind of move that over. Here's all the things that I want to create, right? It's a parameter. I have file name strs a string containing the name of the text file. It has a default value. And then a dictionary where the keys are the words from the file. And I'm going to put this on the next line. And the values are their corresponding number of occurrences or integers. So this is what we want to create. And it may seem a little difficult at first. That's okay. You're getting used to creating functions, but also you're getting used to creating functions. I'm giving you some hints about it, and then also we are going to I give you more step-by-step instructions. So we're going to say file name stir, right? Because we have a parameter, we know, and it says it has a default value. Here, maybe I'll move this down so you can see this quicker. It says it has a default value. Remember how to create our default value, right? We just put it right in here, home.txt. So that's the default. We can use other text files if we want, but that will be the default. The great thing we already know it's in our folder as well, so we're all set. So now what we need to do is we're going to do these different things, right? We're going to open the file for reading. We're going to create a dictionary variable that's initially empty. We're going to then open the file and then we're going to loop through each line of the file. Okay, so that's what we're going to do now. So we know how to we can even actually create that empty dictionary first, right? It's an empty dictionary variable. What are we going to call it? Well, don't call it empty dictionary because it's not going to be empty for long, right? Call it something that kind of means something, right? What this is going to do is it's going to have words, right? So it's going to have words and their number of occurrences. So that's something that we could call it like, hey, you are my words dictionary, right? And an empty dictionary is the dictionaries we use curly braces. Okay. And we know that's what we want to return. We want to return a dictionary where the keys are the words from the files and the values are their corresponding number of occurrences or integers. So we know this is what I want to build up and then return. So it's similar to how we did the last lab, or one of the last labs where we created we created an empty list, read the data from the file, and then return that list. So very similar. We're just now going to do a dictionary. And dictionaries have those key value pairs. Okay. Now we're going to open up the file for reading. We know how to do that. We're going to use that open. We can call, and it's going to give us back a file variable, right? So we're going to have to put that into something. So, it could even be something like, hey, this is my poem file. This is my poem file. I'm going to open it. So open it, and I'm going to use that file name stir. So let's use that file name stir. And remember, we're opening it up for reading. So we're going to use that R. So let's use that R. And so we've opened it. Before I forget, let's close it, right? Because I don't want to forget to close it. So we've opened it, we've closed it. Now in between is where we're going to loop through line by line, right? Each line, we know how to do that, right? We use a for loop, for line in, and we loop through the poem file, right? That's the variable we use. That's what we're going to call it. The first thing we need to do is we need to strip that information. So we're going to strip that new line, right? That removes the new line. removes the new line, okay? And then we're going to, now that we've done that, it says, okay, for each, now we use the strip to remove the new line, and now we use the split to split the line into a list of words, right? So we're going line by line. So now what do we want to call this? Maybe we want to call this, we could call this line list, just so we can be really exact. Line list equals, we take our line and we're going to, this time we're going to split, right? We're going to split it. And what are we going to split on? Well, if it was a CSV, we would split on a comma, but it's not a CSV. So we can just split it using the default, which is white space. So we'll just do that. We will split based on white space, right? And we've done this before in examples. Now we have our line list. And now this is a list of strings, okay? So now we want, it says, you can see here, it says in the loop, create an inner loop or a nested loop to go through the list of words. So we're using the for loop again, right? That wonderful for loop says for. Now this time I might say word, right? For word in line list, because that's really what it is. It's a list of words, right? And if we look here, so if we look here at our poem, right, you're going to see it's like, this is what I want to do is I want to take all this and I'm going to get this whole string and then I'm going to split it based off of white space, which is a space, and now I'll have each of these words. So the first word will be in, then the, then last, and days of the. Oh, the is repeated, right? So we'll deal with that, but we're going to deal with it word by word. See, the whole idea is to read through this word by word. Okay? So we've got our word, right? Now it has no new line. We don't have to strip that. We have a word. Now for each word, convert it to lowercase, right? So we do want to convert it to lowercase because some of the words have capital and some of them don't, and we want them to be the same. So word equals word dot lower, parentheses, always need that parentheses. You need to do it here. You cannot do it here because this for loop, right, creates this variable. Remember, the for loop creates the variable, right? I'll put this here, right? The for loop creates this line variable. This is just a line. Line is a variable, and specifically it's a string. And so when I create this too, word is a variable. It's a variable, and specifically it's a string. So we could say it's a string variable. So we lowercase it, and now we also want to strip it. And yes, I could chain these together, but I am going to do this separate just so you can see. What I want to do is I want to strip these different characters. And we did learn about if we give it a string of characters, then it will strip those. And so it says here, like, what do I want to strip? I want to strip commas, periods, semicolons, and dashes, right? So that's what I want to do. I want to strip those. So now I have word and it's lowercase and it won't have any of those punctuation around it. Okay. Now we want to see if it's actually in the dictionary. So actually, maybe I'll pause here for a second, just so we can, everyone can look at this and make sure that you've gotten yours just like this. Jason, I'm trying to make a video and you're snoring. Okay, I paused my video. I threw a pillow at you. I talked louder to try to cover your snoring, but I don't want to have to recreate this video.
You continue for my spirits.
Oh no, you've been snoring this whole time.
Okay.
So I'm just continuing. Your snoring is going to be in the background.
No, yeah.
But I'd like you not to snore anymore.
I'm sorry.
Put your CPAP on.
No, that.
Okay. I'm resuming. Okay, now, right, now we're going to actually add it into the dictionary. So first we're going to do, now look at how this is all indented, right? I've indented this to be in the function. I've indented this to be in the for, and this is this nested for loop. So now I'm going to say, hey, if my word, and we can do this either way. We can first say if it's in there increase it, or if it's not in there, add it with a one, whichever way you want to do it. Um, I think sometimes students like different ways, but I'm first going to say, hey, if my word is not, so using that Boolean operator not, and then the in operator, if it's not in my dictionary, and that's this variable here, words dictionary. If it's not in words dictionary, then I want to add it to words dictionary. And remember how we add it is we use our dictionary variable, we use our key, and we do our value, right? Because basically it says, hey, I take what's on the, what's on the right of the equals, the value, right? And I'm going to put that into the dictionary at that key. There's a really cool thing that it does. So now we just need to do this properly using the variables we have. So word dictionary square bracket key. Well, what's our keys? Our keys are going to be the words themselves. So I aptly named this variable word. So I could just say, hey, my word equals, and now for the value, we want it to be a number. We want it to be an integer because we're counting how many times. Well, this time it's not in there. So we are setting it to one. We're saying, hey, you're not in the dictionary yet. Add it to the dictionary and set the value to one. Now I want to do the else. So notice here I'm matching up my else with my if. And now I want to increase it. Well, how do I increase it? I could use the shorthand plus equals one. So it's saying, hey, whatever value you have, add one to it. And it's going to change it, right? It's mutable. It's going to change it. Actually, it's going to change that number. So there you go. That's how we create this dictionary by using these nested loops. So we check to see if it's not, add the word as a key and set the value to one. If it is in the dictionary, increase the value by one, and we're going to use the shorthand plus equals. After the nested loop, close the file, which we already did. And, just to make sure you see, right, the indentation is so important. This is after both loops, right? You can see it's after both loops. We are closing the file. If we close the file too early, then we're not going to see the whole file. We have to do that. And then we return the dictionary, which we already did too, right? So now in our main, we're actually going to call this. Right? So we are going to call this function, and we say count words. We can give it a file name, or we don't have to. Since there's a default value, we don't have to. But what we do need is we need to put the return value into a variable. And this can be any variable name. Count words. What is this? This is my dictionary. Usually I ask the class, like, hey, what do you want to call this? I don't have to call it words dictionary, right? I could call it, I could even just call it words, but it is a dictionary. So if it makes it feel better, you can actually put the dictionary word there. Um, so I don't want to put like occurrence dictionary because that is way too long. So that's way too long. Um, Maybe I will say count dictionary just so I can use a different variable name here. Just to see that you don't have to. The value in this function, so when we call this function, then it goes through here, reads, creates the empty dictionary, opens the file, reads the file line by line, right? This is what it's doing. Read file line by line. And then it's breaking up each line into a string, and then it's reading each word in the string. I'm sorry, each word in the list. And then it is taking each word, increasing the number if it's already in there. And now we have this. So now afterwards, we can test this just by printing this. So let's run this to see how it goes. We're going to run it and you're going to see, wow, there's a lot of words in there. It starts with in, just like here, in the, wow, used the 52 times. right? And then at the very end, you will see, so I did some dot, 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 and then finding this beginning, end, own. Finding this beginning, end, own. Awesome. So there's all of our words. So that's the first part. Now let's go to the next step. You will see here, our next step is there is a parameter for this next function where we use that dictionary. We take the dictionary and we are going to put it all in alphabetical order. That's really the goal of this. So you can see the sample output is putting the words and their number of occurrences, and the words are in alphabetical order. So let's do that now. We're going to define this function. I'm going to copy this blue text here. This is my comments, right, about what this function does. I'm going to do this up here, right, in between the other ones. Ooh, that did a lot of extra. Let's see. This is the containing the words. Just going to put some returns in here so we can see this a little bit better. Okay. You do not have to put so many spaces, but I just want to be able to show you this neater. So we're going to define this alpha print function. It has a parameter, words, dictionary, doesn't have a default value, so we don't have to do anything. And there is no return value. All this function does is it gets the keys from the word dict parameter. Okay, so we're going to get the keys from it. Keys equal words dict, and then keys. That was that dictionary method that we dot keys that we can get the keys. And so this is here where I'm going to just print this out for you so you can see. Okay, I'm going to comment out that, but what I am going to do now is call this alpha print just with my count dictionary. So you actually, I could just, why don't I just do it? I'll make it easier. Let's just print, well, I've got to call this to actually see it. So I will alpha print, and I'm going to call alpha print with my count dictionary. So I'm calling alpha print with my count dictionary. So that will call this do the keys and print the keys, because I want you to see what's going to happen here. Okay, so look at the keys. The keys says dict underscore keys, parentheses, and then square brackets. So dict keys is a new variable type. It's a separate variable type, but hopefully you can see that it does contain this square bracket list of keys. And that's what we want. We want to get that list of keys. So how we can do this, right, is we can say, okay, that was my dict keys. Wonderful. But I actually want the keys themselves in a list. So I'm going to say keys list equals, and I'm going to surround it with list and pass it in. So we're giving it an argument of this keys, dict underscore keys. And now when we print the keys list, I want you to see what it looks like. So I'm going to comment out this one, and we can run this again. And you're going to see it's just a list, square bracket, just a list like we're used to. Yay. So now that we have a list, how are we going to, well, now that we have a list, what we want to do is we want to sort, right? We want to use the we have a list, right? Keys list dot sort. We're going to use that sort such that when we print our keys list, I'm going to comment this one out, do this one now, run it, and you're going to see, boom, our keys are sorted by alphabetical order. Isn't that lovely? So much easier to read. Love it when there's order. So now that we have that, we're getting there, right? We have our list, but now I want to loop through my sorted list. So for, right, for, well, what is this? It still holds my keys. So I'm going to use it's not a reserved word, just a variable name key. For key in keys list. And key is just going to be a string. And the first time through it's A, and then it's abandon, and then it's abandoning, and then it's acknowledge, and then it's act, and then it's again, right? Each time it goes through the loop, it goes through it until there's no more. So now we have the keys. How do we pull out the value? Well, we pull out the value from the dictionary. And I'll remind you of that syntax. Just value equals our dictionary variable, square bracket our key, right? That's how we can pull it out. So value is not a reserved word. I can say value equals, well, what's my dictionary? Words dict, that's my parameter. Square bracket key, I aptly named this key so I could use key right there. So now I have my key. So now I'm going to print my key, then the string, looks like a little arrow, and then the value. And that's going to print every word as it goes through the loop one by one and prints out the value. And then we have to make sure, we already done it, but we call it an alpha print. So we call it an alpha print, and there we go. Boom. We have all of the words and the number of times each of those words occurred. So you can scroll through a lot of ones, a lot of those words were just used once. Forgetfulness was used twice. I remember map was used multiple times. I put that as an example. Map was used 9 times, and then you can keep on going down and see. Like at the end, you was used 10 and your was used 6. So, and we could actually do this to any text file, right? We could read any text file and figure out how many words are in it. So I did put a lot of prints in here. I can go through and say, hey, I don't really need those prints. I can actually delete them, just if it makes it easier to actually see the code and not all the prints. But some of the comments I'm going to leave in here because they help you kind of understand it. So I'm going to come back to the top. So this is it, right? I'll make this bigger so you can see this. This is our lab today, lab 12. We're going to first define our functions, count words. Here's our count words. We created an empty dictionary, and then we fill it up in here and we return it here. Through that process, we opened up a file for reading. We closed it down here. We went through line by line, then created, add stuff to the dictionary. And then here was our alpha print. So it prints the words, the keys in alphabetical order, and then their corresponding value, which is the number of occurrences. So that's our alpha print right there. And then there's our main, what actually calls it. We're just calling these two functions. And remember, this variable name does not have to match what is in the function, right? This is the variable name that exists in the main function. So main, I called count words, put it into count dictionary, and then I use count dictionary here for as my argument to the alpha print function. So there you go. There's our lab for today.